Hi there, welcome to the Coaching Musicians Facebook group. I wanted to make a short video just to explain to you why it was that I created this group in the first place. So many of you will know that it's been a few years now that I've run a business coaching professional musicians and music industry people and creatives and entrepreneurs in some capacity. And largely I've just been doing that sort of behind the scenes with the people that have hired me. I was always sort of very passionate about doing it, but I'd never really sort of really publicly sort of spoken about what got me started and why I did it. And recently I've become aware of the fact that actually, you know, my business is in a place now where I'd love to spread the value of coaching within the music industry, and as I look around, I notice that there's many people that don't really understand what coaching is, at least coaching in the sense that I'm using the word, which is more like it's used in executive coaching or sort of mindset coaching in sports, because there can be some ambiguity in the music industry around what coaching means, because for a lot of people, you know, if you're a vocal coach or you're a performance coach, what it really means is often a high level of teaching or teaching with an advanced student. But the reason I created this group was because, you know, in my own journey, my own professional development as a teacher, because I was seeing so many students and I was fascinated by why it was that certain students seemed to make colossal progress and really go on to really transform in the course of their music lessons, whereas other people didn't seem to. And I was very curious about that because you know, often I'd worked on sequencing lessons or putting information together in a certain order, giving them certain musical experiences, and yet they seemed to take different things from it. And I was curious about it, and I was also curious about my own, level of progress as a player. And so I researched and looked to the world of personal development, and I came across coaching. I came across a different kind of intervention. It wasn't the same as teaching. It wasn't the same as sort of just focusing on the skills. There was something about coaching specifically that focused in a very elegant, very targeted way on looking at a person's most fundamental beliefs, their values, the way that they create their map of the world, and then in a carefully, systematically created way, helping them to see what may be more true for them or what may be their fullest potential. And so I began studying that. First, it was kind of to help me lose some of the limiting beliefs about myself as a musician, because I felt like I had potential within me that wasn't being harnessed or sort of tapped into. And then later it became, I tested out some of the coaching techniques and questions and approaches in my music classroom, and I realized that I could leverage what I was doing with the students by helping them to change their fundamental beliefs about themselves. And then I really got the bug, and when I started having conversations with students after class or in lunch times or sort of following their career, I realized that actually it was that part of the job that now I had fallen in love with, and so really in my heart I was a coach. It wasn't just, obviously I had a background in teaching, in pedagogy, but the part that really excited me was the bit that seemed to be the most leveraging. You know, so after how long was it? Probably the best part of a decade teaching, I just kept getting the message actually that the most, if I wanted to have the most impact in a student's musical development, then actually I needed to be not looking at the level of skills acquisition, but looking at the level of belief, and within those beliefs, the most fundamental kind of beliefs that a student can have is their self-identity, the way that they create themselves. Essentially, who are you being? How are you creating yourself as a being in this world, as a self in this world? So, you know, that's the kind of work that I've been doing now for several years, and I just want more musicians, more music industry people to have access to this technology, this approach, because I can appreciate, and I see it very, very clearly, that this is not mainstream yet. It's not mainstream that professional musicians or music students get mindset coaching, but actually in other domains, so in business, in high-level sport, mindset coaching is a much more integral part of the development. Same in you could say it's the same in martial arts training, where the intellectual and the spiritual and the physical development have always been integrated as a whole. But for some reason, it feels like within music, particularly within music education, that the bias has been towards becoming a better musician in what you can see and hear, but not really looking at the actual musician themselves, in their beliefs, in who they're being, in their self-concept. Right, so this group is a place for anybody who is interested in the art and science of coaching. It's for anybody who is wanting to learn how to coach or learn how to coach better. It's also for someone who would like to experience coaching and see what it looks like for musicians to have coaching. So what I'd recommend that you do, if you're interested in it, is to go into the guides section of the group, where you'll find it at the top, and there's lots of coaching demos. Work your way through there, and I'd encourage you to mark them as done as you go, to keep track of the ones that you've watched. So that'll give you an experience of the kind of work that's being done with professional musicians who are opting for mindset coaching. And I've coached a vast variety of musicians now. It's not just sort of music students or established professionals. It's a very wide range of people within the industry. You name it, I've pretty much coached someone on it, and you name the job title, I've pretty much coached them within the industry. And the reason for that is because this is not mentoring, this is not teaching, this is coaching. It's about how a person thinks. So I don't need to be an expert producer, I don't need to be a rock star, I don't need to be a concert soloist to be able to help them, because they all have thinking. And the one thing that holds them back from creating the next level of success or the next level of performance is how they're thinking about themselves and about life. So if we look at how you think, how you are creating your model of the world, and seeing whether there are any differences between that map and and the reality, then that's where someone has an insight, and that's what changes their life when it changes their life. You'll also find in the guides a section on client creation. So for any of those who are already exploring the possibility of coaching professionally, or you maybe have done some training as a coach and you'd like to have more clients than you currently do, then I'm sharing some of the most useful resources that I also share with my clients who are professional coaches or aspiring coaches. And also, if you want to ask any questions, I want to present myself and provide a resource for you. So I really encourage you to engage in this group by asking questions and making the use of this, because largely coaching within the music industry isn't really being spoken about, and the people who are speaking about it tend to be keeping in their own lane. I'd like to popularize this approach within the industry, because I think there's a great need for it, and I also think that actually coaching is the answer to the music industry's mental health crisis. Because if people have if they have the tools to understand themselves better and to solve their own problem thinking, then they don't suffer so much. So I think that if we can create a music industry that has a fully, deeply embedded culture of coaching, I think it will change the world. I think it will change the music industry. I think it will help us to create a more collaborative, more holistic, kinder, more resilient, more empowered music industry. That's my vision, and that's why I've created this group, because I think the people who are attracted to this kind of group will be the ones who will be change makers, the ones who will be part of that movement, and you'll be living proof, because many of you I know from the people I've seen that have joined are already people who have experienced the power of coaching. So I want to support you wherever I can. I want to support my colleagues. I want to support your professional development. I want to support this movement of growing coaching within the music industry. So I'm here for you. If there's a particular thing that you are curious about, you have a question about, make use of me. I will answer your questions as much as I can. First, I'll probably do individual video answers, but if there are more questions, I'm happy to do a Zoom call with a Q&A for anything that's useful around coaching skills, around my practice, around how I've built my business, around how to get clients, around the kinds of resources that I share with people, around the philosophy behind how I coach and what I know of the coaching industry. And if you have any suggestions for the group, I'm also open to that. So yeah, I wanted to make this video just to put some context to this group, and I look forward to discussing and interacting with you soon. All right, lots of love.